My sister-in-law used my disability to make me look crazy in front of my brother, so I flipped the script and watched her face as she realized he now saw her as the insane one. Ever since my brother started dating Martina, she has had one very specific goal: to get rid of me. Our parents died when we were teenagers. We're the only family each other has left, meaning I'm the only one standing in between her and total control over Ryan. The first time I met her, she was all smiles, and the second I told her I have severe autism, so please watch out for my triggers, her smile grew even wider, almost as if she was already planning. She wasted no time planting the seed in my brother's mind. She started referring to me as it when nobody could hear, knowing it would get under my nerves in front of Ryan. She started putting foods I hated into my smoothies in secret, making sure Ryan would see my uncomfortable reaction upon drinking. When I'd complain about it tasting different, she'd act like the concerned mental health specialist, suggesting potential therapy and treatment. Things only escalated from there. When we went bowling for Ryan's birthday, she positioned herself directly behind me when we were going to the bathroom. Once inside, she made sure it was empty, then pulled out her phone with a strobe light app that she knew would trigger my seizures. I collapsed hard, and she screamed for help, cradling my head. When help came and Ryan finally saw us, she told everyone the bright bathroom lights triggered it. I was too out of it to fight back. Then came my birthday, before which she spent weeks interrogating Ryan about my sensory needs, claiming it was to make sure another accident didn't happen. She of course weaponized everything. Hidden LED bulbs flickered behind lampshades. Air fresheners she knew made me sick that she sprayed only when nobody was looking. Multiple sound sources that played while a timer beeped every few minutes when we were alone. And still, I didn't say anything. I figured it would get better, but it didn't. And then came the bathroom incident broke me. I was visiting their house when Ryan left for the store. While he was gone, I left for the bathroom for just a moment, leaving my phone on the table. But as soon as I got inside the bathroom, Martina locked me in and turned off the lights. She knew I was claustrophobic. I panicked in the darkness, crying and begging for 20 minutes while she listened outside. When Ryan returned, she unlocked the door and grabbed my arm hard, threatening to make it even worse for me if I told him. She then brought me out and told Ryan I just had a breakdown over the peas at dinner. Ryan's graduation dinner at a restaurant was when I finally understood I was alone in this. I made a mistake and knocked over my water glass, and Martina muttered the R slur just loud enough for me to hear. I immediately told Ryan what she said. On the spot. I was done, but he didn't listen. In fact, he actually laughed, saying Martina worked with special needs kids and would never say something like that. He said I probably misheard. Martina smirked at me over his shoulder. I went home that night with perfect clarity. If I wanted justice, I'd have to take it myself. I spent weeks studying her routines and vanities while practicing my innocent face in the mirror. I remembered my immunity to poison ivy from childhood and started planning. The rest happened fast. During a visit, Martina complained about wanting to eat healthier, so I made her a healthy smoothie with kale and spinach and carefully blended poison ivy leaves. 4 hours later, her face was swollen with rashes, and she was screaming at Ryan about how I poisoned her. But given that he had seen me drink the exact smoothie she did, he just looked at her like she needed to stop accusing me. This was just the start. 2 weeks later, while I was visiting, I planted positive pregnancy tests in her bathroom trash and simply waited. Ryan found them a few days later. I knew they weren't supposed to be doing the deed because of medical complications, and from what I heard, when Ryan found it, there was a huge argument. He accused her of cheating, while she accused me of planting the pregnancy test. He ultimately forgave her after going through her phone, but the seed was there, and with how hardcore she accused me, he started having serious doubts about their relationship. That's when I made my final move. The 10-year anniversary dinner for our parents was at their house. Martina had spent all week preparing with expensive nails and a white designer dress. I brought flowers for the memorial, and while placing them, I spilled olive oil by her chair. She stood to make a toast a few minutes later and slipped spectacularly. She tried to stop herself by clinging onto the table, and that was her mistake. Her nails snapped backward, and she knocked over a glass of red wine that drenched her dress. She was now on the floor, wailing in pain with her nails looking like that one SpongeBob scene with the broken fingers. Everyone, including me, rushed to help her, and that's when she lost it. She yelled at me, grabbed my hair, and slapped me across the face, yelling that she knew what I was doing. I remember falling dramatically when she slapped, clutching my cheek and looking around for help. And there, for the first time, Ryan jumped up to defend me. He immediately told her to get out, while she looked at him screaming that he was falling victim to his R-worded little sister's manipulation. I remember being on the floor, staring directly at her. Ryan couldn't see me, and that's when I made my ballsiest move yet. I smiled at her, the same smile she gave me that first day. Her face went from red to purple, and she lunged at me again. Ryan had to physically hold her back. Our aunt and uncle were there too, and they just stared in shock. Uncle Charles actually pulled out his phone to record. Martina was screaming about how I was evil and manipulative. She told everyone I poisoned her and planted pregnancy tests. Ryan looked embarrassed and confused. He kept telling her to calm down, but she wouldn't stop. Finally, he dragged her outside. I stayed on the floor crying. Aunt Sharon came over and helped me up. She kept asking if I was okay. I nodded, but kept holding my cheek. It really did hurt. Through the window, I could see Ryan and Martina arguing by their car. She was pointing at the house and yelling. He had his hands on his head, looking stressed. After about 10 minutes, he came back inside alone. He apologized to everyone and said Martina went home. Then he came over to me. He asked if I was really okay. I told him my face hurt, but I'd be fine. He looked guilty and said we'd talk later. The rest of the dinner was awkward. Nobody really talked about what happened. We just ate quietly and shared some memories about mom and dad. Ryan kept checking his phone. I could tell Martina was texting him nonstop. When I got home that night, I felt weird. Part of me was happy Ryan finally saw her true colors, but I also felt bad. I never wanted to ruin their relationship. I just wanted her to stop hurting me. The next morning, Ryan called me early. He said he and Martina had a long talk. She admitted she maybe overreacted, but still insisted I was sabotaging her. He asked me straight up if I did anything to her. I told him no. I said I just wanted to get along with her. He sighed and said he believed me, but Martina was really upset. He asked if I'd be willing to sit down with both of them them to talk things out. I agreed because what else could I do? We met at a coffee shop that afternoon. Martina looked rough. Her face still had some rash marks and her eyes were puffy. She didn't say hi when I sat down. Ryan started by saying we all needed to communicate better. He said there were obviously some misunderstandings happening. Martina immediately cut in saying there were no misunderstandings. She said I'd been targeting her since day one. I stayed quiet and let her rant. She brought up the smoothie incident and the pregnancy tests. She even mentioned other stuff I didn't do, like how her favorite earrings went missing after I visited, or how her work laptop got a virus after I used it once. Ryan looked more and more uncomfortable as she talked. Finally, he told her she was being paranoid. That set her off again. She said he always took my side because I was his poor autistic sister. She said I used my disability to manipulate people. That's when I started crying for real. Not fake tears, real ones. Because even though I did do some stuff to her, hearing her say that hurt. Ryan got mad then. He told her that was way out of line. He said my autism wasn't something I used. It was something I lived with every day. Martina rolled her eyes and said, see, I was already manipulating him again with tears. I got up and left. I couldn't sit there anymore. Ryan called after me, but I just kept walking. I went straight home and locked myself in my room. About an hour later, Ryan showed up at my apartment. He knocked for like 5 minutes before I finally let him in. He looked tired. He said Martina left right after I did, and they had another huge fight in the parking lot. He said he was starting to see a pattern with her. I just nodded and made us some tea. We sat on my couch and he asked me to be honest. He said he needed to know if I really did put poison ivy in her smoothie. I looked him straight in the eye and said no. I told him she probably just had an allergic reaction to something. He stared at me for a long time, then nodded. He said he wanted to believe me. Then he told me something that shocked me. He said Martina had done similar things with his ex-girlfriend. She'd accused her of stealing and lying. She'd caused drama at every family event. Eventually, his ex broke up with him because she couldn't deal with Martina anymore. I asked why he stayed with Martina after that. He said she convinced him his ex was the problem, that she was jealous and trying to break them up. But now he was seeing the same pattern with me. We talked for hours that night. He told me how Martina would get upset if he spent too much time with me, how she'd guilt trip him about choosing me over her, how she'd twist things I said to make me sound bad. I mostly just listened. Inside, I felt guilty, but also vindicated. She really was trying to get rid of me. The next few days were quiet. Ryan said he needed space from both of us to think. I respected that and didn't contact him, but apparently Martina didn't get the memo. She started showing up at my apartment. The first time she came, she knocked politely. When I answered, she said we needed to talk woman to woman. I let her in because I was curious. Big mistake. The second the door closed, she grabbed my wrist hard. She said she knew what I did and I wasn't going to get away with it. She said Ryan might be too stupid to see through me, but she wasn't. I pulled my wrist away and told her to leave. She laughed and said I'd have to do better than poison ivy and fake pregnancy tests. She said she was going to expose me for the manipulative witch I was. Then she left. I was shaking after that. I realized I'd underestimated how far she'd go. The next day she came back. This time she had a folder. She pushed past me into my apartment and spread papers on my coffee table. They were printouts from autism support forums. She'd highlighted posts about autistic people who manipulated others. She said she was building a case to show Ryan that I was faking my autism for attention. I told her those posts had nothing to do with me. She said it didn't matter. She said she'd make him see the truth about me one way or another. I asked her to leave again. This time she threw the papers at me before storming out. I should have called Ryan then, but I didn't want to seem like I was trying to turn him against her more, so I stayed quiet. That was another mistake. The harassment escalated quickly. She started calling my work. She'd pretend to be concerned about my mental health. She told my boss I was having episodes and might be dangerous. Thank God my boss knew me well enough to ignore her, but it was embarrassing having to explain why my brother's girlfriend was calling. She also started following me. I'd see her car outside the grocery store or at the park where I walked. She never approached me in public. She just wanted me to know she was watching. One night I woke up to banging on my door at 3 a.m. I looked through the peephole and saw Martina. She was hammered and yelling about how I ruined her life. I didn't open the door. I just called Ryan. He showed up 20 minutes later looking mad. I watched through the peephole as he argued with her in the hallway. Eventually, he got her to leave. He knocked after she was gone and I let him in. He apologized over and over. He said she'd been drinking a lot lately and acting erratic. He said he tried to break up with her earlier that day, but she threatened to hurt herself. I told him that wasn't his responsibility. He said he knew, but he felt stuck. We talked until sunrise. He told me more about how toxic things had gotten, how she'd broken things in their apartment during arguments, how she'd threatened to tell his boss lies about him, how she'd said she'd ruin both our lives if he left her. I felt terrible. I never wanted things to go this far. I just wanted her to stop hurting me, but now she was spiraling and taking Ryan down with her. I told him he needed to get away from her. He said he was trying, but she wouldn't accept it. He was scared of what she might do. The next week was hell. Martina ramped up everything. She called my work daily. She left nasty notes on my car. She created fake social media accounts to harass me online. She even contacted some of my friends with lies about me. Ryan tried to get her to stop, but she wouldn't listen. He stayed with me most nights because she'd trashed their apartment when he was gone. He showed me pictures of broken dishes and holes in walls. It was scary. Then she crossed a major line. I came home from work to find my door unlocked. I knew I'd locked it that morning. I carefully went inside and found my apartment trashed. My clothes were cut up. My TV was smashed. My autism comfort items were destroyed. And on my bed was a note that said, "This is just the beginning." I called the cops immediately. Ryan met me outside while they checked my apartment. He looked defeated. He said Martina had a key from when she'd watered my plants once. He forgot she had it. The cops took pictures and wrote a report. They said without proof it was her, they couldn't do much. But they suggested I get a restraining order. Ryan said he'd testify about her behavior if needed. That night, I stayed at a hotel. Ryan stayed with me. He said he was done with Martina completely. He'd already called a locksmith to change their apartment locks. He said he'd deal with whatever she threatened. He just wanted her gone. The next morning, we went to the courthouse. I filed for a restraining order and Ryan came as a witness. He told them about her harassment and threats. police. He showed them texts where she admitted to following me. The judge granted a temporary order. Martina would be served that day. We thought that would be the end. We were wrong. She got served at work apparently. Ryan got a call from her boss saying she'd had a complete meltdown. She screamed about me in front of clients. She threw things and had to be escorted out. She was fired on the spot. That made things worse. Now she had nothing to lose. She showed up at Ryan's work next. Security had to remove her. She screamed that Ryan was an abuser and I was a mastermind who destroyed her life. People filmed it and someone posted it online. Ryan's boss was understanding but told him to handle his personal life. Ryan was mortified. He'd worked so hard for his reputation, and now everyone was talking about his crazy ex. That night, Martina violated the restraining order. She showed up at Ryan's apartment building. She couldn't get in because of the changed locks, but she stood outside screaming. She threw rocks at his windows. Neighbors called the cops. When they arrived, she tried to run, but they caught her. Ryan called me from the police station. He said she was being charged with violating the order and destruction of property. He sounded relieved, but also sad. Despite everything, he'd loved her once. I met him at the station to give my statement. Martina was in a holding cell and saw me through a window. She started screaming again about how I'd won, how I'd manipulated everyone. The officers had to move her to a different cell. One of them told us she'd been like that for hours, just ranting about me nonstop. They said she seemed unstable and might need a psychological evaluation. We left feeling drained. Ryan crashed at my hotel again. Neither of us felt safe going home. We ordered pizza and watched dumb movies. We didn't talk about Martina. We just tried to feel normal for a few hours. The next day, Ryan's phone blew up. Martina's mom was calling nonstop. When he finally answered, she begged him to drop the charges. She said Martina was having a breakdown. She said this wasn't like her. Ryan put her on speaker so I could hear. He calmly explained everything Martina had done. Her mom kept making excuses. She said Martina was stressed from work. She said I must have provoked her somehow. Ryan lost it then. He told her Martina had been abusing both of us for months. He said she needed help, but he couldn't provide it anymore. Her mom cried and said we were ruining Martina's life. Ryan hung up. We found out later that Martina's mom bailed her out. The restraining order was still active, but we were nervous. Ryan went to stay with our Uncle Charles for safety. I moved in with my friend Hannah temporarily. We figured Martina would cool off after a few days in jail. Wrong again. She created a blog about me. She posted wild stories about how I was a dangerous manipulator who targeted her. She included real photos of me, but with crazy captions. She wrote about my autism like it was proof I was evil. She even posted my work address and encouraged people to call my boss. Luckily, nobody took it seriously, but it was violating to see my life twisted online. Ryan contacted a lawyer about defamation. The lawyer said we had a case, but it would take time. Meanwhile, the blog stayed up. Martina kept adding to it daily. She posted about Ryan too. She called him weak and pathetic. She said he chose his defective sister over true love. She posted private photos of them together with long rants about their relationship. Ryan was humiliated. His coworkers saw it. His friends saw it. Everyone saw it. But the worst part was when she started contacting our extended family. She Facebook messaged all our aunts and uncles with her version of events. She told them I was dangerous and needed to be institutionalized. She said Ryan was enabling me. Most of them ignored her, but Aunt Joyce actually called Ryan concerned. He had to explain the whole situation. It was exhausting. Then Martina made her biggest mistake. She showed up at my work. I was in a meeting when security called. They said a woman was in the lobby demanding to see me. I knew immediately who it was. I told them to call the police and stayed in the meeting room. My boss went to check the situation. She came back looking shocked. She said Martina was screaming about me being a fraud. She said she had evidence I was faking my autism for attention. She was waving printed blog posts around. Security held her until cops arrived. My coworkers were staring at me. I was mortified. My boss took me to her office after. She said she wasn't worried about Martina's claims but asked if I was safe. I broke down crying. I told her everything. She was really supportive. She said I could work from home until things calmed down. She also had security ban Martina from the building. The cops arrested Martina again for violating the restraining order. This time the judge wasn't lenient. She got 30 days in jail and mandatory counseling. Ryan and I thought we could finally breathe. Those 30 days were peaceful. I moved back to my apartment after getting new locks and a security system. Ryan found a new place too. We started feeling normal again. We had family dinners. We went to movies. We didn't talk about Martina, but we should have been preparing because when she got out, she came back worse. She'd lost weight in jail and looked wild. Her hair was greasy and her clothes were wrinkled, but her eyes were the worst part. They were empty except when she looked at me. Then they burned with hate. She couldn't contact us directly because of the restraining order, but she found ways around it. She spray painted liar on my car. She left dead flowers at Ryan's work. She mailed us both letters full of rambling threats. We reported everything, but cops said it was hard to prove it was her without catching her in the act. Ryan installed cameras at his place. I did the same. We were living in fear again. Then one night my cameras caught her. She was wearing all black and trying to pick my lock. I called 911 immediately. I watched on my phone as she worked on the lock. She looked determined, almost calm. It was terrifying. The cops arrived just as she got the door open. She tried to run, but they tackled her in my hallway. I stayed in my bedroom until they had her in custody. When I finally came out, one officer showed me what she'd been carrying: a bag with rope, duct tape, and a knife. They said she was being charged with attempted breaking and entering plus possession of weapons. With her record, she was looking at serious time. Ryan met me at the station again. We both looked exhausted. The detective said Martina had been planning this for weeks. They found journals in her apartment detailing her plans for me. I don't want to know what they said. The detective said it was enough for attempted kidnapping charges. Martina was denied bail this time. The judge considered her a danger. Ryan and I cried with relief in the parking lot. It was finally over, or so we thought. Even from jail, Martina tried to hurt us. She made friends with another inmate who was getting out soon. This woman, Charlotte, started showing up places I went. Not threatening, just watching. It was creepy, but not illegal. Ryan hired a private investigator who confirmed Charlotte was reporting back to Martina. We couldn't do anything about it. Charlotte wasn't breaking any laws. She was just Martina's eyes on the outside. Then the letters started coming from other inmates. All all saying similar things about how I'd ruined an innocent woman's life, how karma would get me, how Martina was suffering because of my lies. Ryan got them too. The prison said they couldn't stop inmates from writing letters. We just had to document everything. The trial was set for 6 months later. Martina's public defender tried to get her to take a plea deal. She refused. She wanted her day in court to expose me. Her lawyer contacted Ryan trying to convince him I was the real problem. Ryan told him to never contact him again. As the trial got closer, things got worse. More of Martina's jail friends got out. They'd show up at my work or follow me at the store, always just watching, never doing anything illegal. It was psychological torture. I started having panic attacks again. Ryan wasn't doing much better. He'd lost weight from stress. He couldn't sleep. We were both shells of ourselves. Then 2 weeks before trial, everything changed. Martina's mom called Ryan crying. She said Martina had attacked another inmate who said something nice about sisters. She was in solitary now and facing additional charges. Her mom begged Ryan to visit her. She said Martina was falling apart. Ryan said no. Her mom called me next. She said this was all my fault. She said I'd destroyed her daughter. I hung up on her, but her words stuck with me. Had I gone too far? Was this all my fault? I talked to my therapist about the guilt. She reminded me that Martina chose her actions. I may have played some pranks, but Martina chose to escalate. She chose violence and stalking. She chose to throw away her life for revenge. That helped a little. The trial finally came. Ryan and I sat together in the courtroom. Martina looked terrible. She'd lost more weight and had dark circles under her eyes. She kept staring at me. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of manipulation. He brought up her work with special needs kids. He said she'd been driven crazy by my psychological games. The prosecutor shut that down quick. They showed the security footage of her breaking into my apartment with weapons. They read her journals about her plans. They played recordings of her threatening voicemails. They showed photos of my destroyed apartment. The evidence was overwhelming. When I testified, Martina's lawyer tried to trip me up. He asked about the smoothie incident. I stuck to my story about her having an allergic reaction. He asked about the pregnancy tests. I said I didn't know anything about that. He tried to make me look like a liar, but the prosecutor objected to most of his questions. Ryan testified next. He talked about Martina's escalating behavior. He confirmed the harassment and threats. He looked sad but determined. When he finished, Martina started yelling that he was a traitor. The judge had her removed. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted kidnapping, stalking, harassment, violating a restraining order, and more. The sentencing was a month later. Martina got 5 years with mandatory psychiatric treatment. Her mom wailed in the courtroom. Martina just stared at me. Before they took her away, she mouthed, "This isn't over," but it was.